New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. From perfect jackets to fresh kicks, there's always a score.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
Because I always find something amazing.
Because a good deal feels so good.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find major deals on everything you need for fall. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Dying Times here. That's right, we're talking about the 2024 version of Salem's Lot on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal Patrick Hamilton coming to you once again from Salem's Lot, Maine, USA. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And we're going to unpack all the goriest details of the 2022, no, wait a second, 2023, no, wait, hold on, 2024 version of Salem's Lot, in the hopes that a Maine resident's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person I trust to tape up all those tongue depressors to make sure I've got across. The one and the only Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I am full of remorse. I am ashamed. I come to our audience with my head down, to offer a most sincere apology.
Yeah.
And in my stating that I saw the trailer for Salem's Lot and thought it looked, quote, pretty good.
Now, some of this is due to us talking a lot about vampire movies, having scheduled Salem's Lot, the 79 version, for its 45th anniversary, and my somewhat hopeful ambition to be somewhat SEO conscious about the films that we put into here on the show. And it's ultimately a fascinating object. We were told that there was a new version of Salem's Lot coming out, and look at this cast and it's really fucking intriguing. And you're like, well, that's something that you can make a lot of hay out of if you put the time and effort into it. And now you got an R-rated movie. You can add all of these elements that you couldn't do on television necessarily. I think you can do them on television now. But that being said, they kept delaying this movie and saying, it's going to come out in theaters, it's going to come out in theaters, it's going to come out in theaters. And then they would never fucking do it. And finally, they're like, I don't know, it's a Max exclusive. And you're like, well, that doesn't, in 2024, that does not bode well. If you said it was a Max exclusive in 2022, I would have just said it was a mistake. Now, I don't know what to think of this object. And I've watched it now twice.
Oh, no.
I kind of had to go back and see if I was just being a negative Nelly, because we were texting all the way through it. I'm like, no. I have to watch this thing with an actual eye to see if there are elements of it that I genuinely enjoy. And if I dislike it, why do I dislike it? And I found some pretty genuine reasons not to like it. This is not the aim of this show. We like to make gentle fun of movies we enjoy or find fascinating. I don't find this movie particularly fascinating, I think is my most damning statement about it.
No, and it's not even a, how did this happen? Why? I mean, it is easy to tell what is wrong with it. You don't have to be a film scholar. It doesn't require a deep dive to figure out what went wrong. It comes down to one thing. It is one of the worst edited movies I have seen in recent memory. It is the cuts that were made to this, which is apparently at some point 3-hour long movie.
I have to assume that is a better version of this movie.
Were so random and disastrous that I did not check who edited this movie. They should not be allowed to edit anymore, because it is like they were sent to the editing room with a blindfold and a pair of shears and told, good luck, get it under an hour 50.
Yes. I mean, spoiler, I don't know how you spoil Salem's Lot.
The Keep isn't this badly edited.
Now, that is a very big accusation, because I was one of those people who were like, there's no way The Keep is as bad as what people say it is. And I went to a movie theater and saw a cut of that movie, and it is incomprehensible why anyone thought that series of events with those actors in those roles doing those behaviors was going to make a fucking movie. It is a true disaster. And I don't know that this is a true disaster. It is on the lowest end of the Gina Radcliffe It's Fine scale, in that it makes sense. Just if you have no idea what Salem's Lot is and you just know it's like vampires in a small town, it operates along those lines. But if you have any awareness of what the novel is, it leaves you with one question. Why remake Salem's Lot now?
It's, it's stripped down to its bare bones. And rather than, like we said, we were talking before we recorded how we didn't think this would need to be a 90-minute long episode.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, we don't need to do a deep dive in the plot because there isn't one.
Yeah.
There is a guy comes to town. Why he's there is completely irrelevant to the plot of the movie, even though it is a huge part of the book.
Right. He looks at a house mournfully, and a cop asks him, what are you doing here? He's like, oh, I used to live here. I'm coming back to town. I want to rent the Marston house. He's like, you can't. And that's the last they fucking mention the Marston house.
That is it.
That's it. He looks at a house mournfully, and then a bunch of vampire shit happens.
Vampires come to this town, and this guy helps destroy them, and that's the end of the movie. That is the plot. That is, I can't even say it in a nutshell. That's the plot.
That's it. And honestly, if you were to just like strip the book down to its core, because I'm not even we will have time enough to talk about the 79 version when we go through that. Let's just talk about this as a translation from the book, because the reason why this is being remade, right, is like in the aftermath of King's revolution on the printed page. There's a sub-revolution happening where all his books are very quickly being picked up as source material for new movies and television projects. You have Carrie in 76. You have the CBS event series version of Salem's Lot in 79. You've got The Shining in 1980. And then throughout the rest of the 80s and 90s, you have a multitude of adapted books that, beyond Creepshow and The Dead Zone, I would put in, and now Christine, I would put into, there's an era of, I hope you like this pile of trash, loser, is an undertone to them, which sullies the image of King as something you can do on a big screen. And the only thing that kind of resuscitates that a little bit is the It miniseries, which is great for an ABC miniseries, but I certainly does not hold up as like I'm an adult, this is a great interpretation of it. And then the kind of mini revolution of the Shawshank Redemption and the Green Mile, where there's like, hey, this guy makes actual literature. And then there's like, King likes this stuff because King likes almost everything he's presented with. No one on the planet is more entertained by something existing than Stephen King. And I love this man. He has done more for me with the written word than anyone who put any words into the Bible or Book of Mormon. I'll tell you that much. But I wish I had a scintilla of his ability to look at and say, hey, they recorded this on a hard drive and it's mostly in focus. 5 stars. He loves everything. And that's great for him. I don't doubt it. I think it's actually fucking genuine. But the reason why you remake Salem's Lot now is because of It Chapter 1 being not just a successful film, but $1 billion film. That's
and one that is well reviewed.
Yes.
That is well regarded by fans of the book.
Mm-hmm.
That is, they packed so much into it, they need to do it in 2 parts.
Yeah.
Which, you obviously everybody's been saying it. I am not the first. I won't be the last. The only way you could make a true, and I like the 79 version a lot. It is a pivotal moment in my history as a horror fan. But the only way that an adaptation of Salem's Lot can truly work is to make it a limited series.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of lore. And it's not even just like history of the town. It's just like the town itself and the people in the town and why this town was the perfect place to be decimated by a vampire.
Yeah.
There's a reason for it. There's a reason why that town was chosen. And it's not just because, I like that old creepy looking house. Yes.
Well, and this comes down to a core element of this for me. And I know this is going to be a very ranty episode. And if you like that sort of thing, this is great for you. And if it's not your cup of tea, my apologies. We'll be back to Japes and Jams next week.
Re-listen to our substance episode because we gush over that.
The book is called Salem's Lot. It's not called Ben Mears. It's not called Straker and Barlow. It's not called Vampires Amok. It's Salem's Lot. As such, the town is the star of the show. As you say, the cast of characters are plucked from within its town limits. So that's the point. It is the very first of many Stephen King books in a genre I like to call lovingly, this town is going to hell.
Right.
And
it is, the concept of, and most of this was inspired by his love of The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
Which is what if like the very ground of a place is just bad.
Yeah.
And this is, basically a prelude to his Castle Rock books and his Derry books, where, it's not just that bad things happened in this town, it's that the town itself is the problem.
It's on cursed land. For whatever reason, the town is broken. It continues to chug along, but the thing that should keep it on the straight and narrow, the thing that should help all the citizens within it, improve and exist peacefully, is somehow just fractured on a DNA basis.
This is a town full of wife beaters, full of pedophiles, full of drunks. Just like it's just they keep much of the story keeps harping on the sort of purity of Susan Norton.
Yeah.
And how she doesn't belong there, and she's just this absolute good person, and just because she's not like the rest of these perverts and degenerates that populate this town.
Yeah, and she's itching to get fucking out. She just can't find an exact excuse yet to do it, and that's why And so it takes that Hill House idea, the haunting idea of the soil being broken, and expands it beyond one house. The house is at the center, but the problems exist in a radius around it. And now you take in the Dracula element of this, where you have outsiders coming in, and you have the xenophobic element of Straker and Barlow, and then you have the real life examples of Ben Mears, who was born in there and then left, and then not Mike, Mark. There's too many M names in this fucking book. I'll tell you that right now. You can't. And everyone needs a different fucking name.
You shouldn't have a Mark and a Mike in the same.
You should not.
In the same
Yeah,
book.
and this has like Marks, Mikes, Matts. It has too many M names. But Ben is different than everybody else in that he left and has found success beyond there. Mark is somewhat of an outsider because he just has not been raised with the rules of you accept this shittiness of this town. He fights back and everyone views him as like, what are you doing? Now that's going to be expected of us too. He's a little bit of an outsider because he has the attitude that he can do what he wishes.
And also he's a horror fan, which
right.
Back then, was coded as, a little weird, but also it gives him some, inside baseball knowledge on how vampires work. So he has forbidden knowledge
that everyone else has dismissed, and that actually comes to his aid at a certain point.
He ends up being a useful asset.
Not in this movie.
Well, no. No, he sure doesn't.
I mean, let's just get straight into this one. So Mark has this fascination with being able to escape like a magician from certain contraptions. And that usually means escaping from his hands being tied. And it's really emphasized in the book that this is something he has worked on over time. And it comes into play when he's tied up by Straker. And he's like, all right, this is real pressure. I am going to die if I don't apply this knowledge in this moment in time. And the movie there's no pressure to it at all.
No.
It's just something he fucking does. And off camera. And he just flips around. You see the shadow of it. And then he's gone. And the movie treats it like whoop-de-doo. And I'm like, I cannot contain my rage at this decision. Why remake this movie if you don't care about this shit?
It's just like it's got some of my least favorite workarounds for bad editing, which is explaining who people are via extraneous dialogue.
Yes.
You have this absolutely amateur hour scene in the library where we do get a microfiche scene.
Is absolutely the worst way to do it because someone else is speaking out
They're
the things we're
narrating what he's
reading
looking at.
on that fucking microfiche machine.
And it's like, oh, and you got this nosy librarian who's like, oh, that's Ben Mears. 20 years ago, his parents were killed in a car accident.
Microfiche machine 20 years ago, the day Mears' family killed in drunk driving accident.
Rather than having a moment later in the movie where he explains a little bit of his background to Susan, she's given all the salient information she needs before speaking to him directly. And It's like, that's not how people talk.
No, that we're told things. They don't say them. And why? What is the point? It's what comes down to the fact that this movie feels like a speed run.
It's a speed run.
Salem's Lot.
It's a speed run because the movie opens with Ben Mears coming into town. He's a new arrival. And then I shit you not, there's a line of dialogue about 20 minutes later where someone says, well, you've been here 6 months already. What? So you're telling me that like 2 fucking whole seasons have passed?
And there's no difference between the outside environment. If someone doesn't say that, you would think all of this takes place over a 5-day period.
Right.
And the first time I watched it, that was my concrete belief.
You've got a scene where like one of the best, most unsettling moments or passages in Salem's Lot, the book, is I guess I don't know if montage is the right word for a book, but like just showing different minor characters, how they're picked off by vampires, or they're like, you've got that absolutely haunting scene where the woman is trying to feed her dead baby.
Right.
And then like later the baby comes back and turns her into a vampire.
Yeah. Why don't we have a vampire baby in this
It's and then the two of them attack the father who has been beating on the mother when she was alive, and it's like, and then later they find them all kind of hiding out together as a family, but like instead of having a montage of people encountering Barlow, you just literally have a character we've never seen before, never seen again, remark to a character, gosh, he's getting so you can't get a hold of anybody in the lot these days.
Yes.
Like, oh, so that means almost everybody has died already. And
yeah.
You did not think this was important to show to the audience.
I don't think any of it is something anyone involved, at least in its final version of it, feels is necessary. They don't quite, it's almost as if they believe that the thinned out version of Salem's Lot is the best thing. You got to get rid of this extraneous stuff. So like, to me, it's important that like town creeps like Dud Rogers, who are perving on high school chicks, are part of this action.
You've got this one scene where they're looking for Ralphie Glick.
Yeah.
And so Ben is riding in the back of the truck, back of a pickup truck with other townspeople who were helping out to try to find the kid. Yeah. And there's just this guy glowering at him. And he gets off the truck, and Matt Burke, who is played by Bill Camp, says, "Oh, that's Floyd Tibbets and something. He was seeing Susan before you." Now, okay, fine. Floyd is not a major character in the book, but he does get more to do. Like at one point, he beats the shit out of Ben.
Yeah.
And then puts Ben in the hospital, which again is a relevant plot point.
Because that's how he meets the doctor.
Right. And then Floyd is in jail and gets attacked by the vampire there. I think it's like the second bite that actually turns them into vampires.
You need Dud Rogers. You need Floyd.
You never after that one scene, you never see or hear anything about Floyd again. It's like, gee, it seems like he might have had some importance to the plot at some point.
Right.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
You need like jerks like Corey Bryant. You need assholes like the Bowdens. You need useless sacks like Mike Ryerson. When they become vampire converts, it's because they have these inner dark desires and motivations that once all the permissions are erased from them because they're now undead bloodsuckers, they go on a rampage and they mean something because of that. And this movie just erases that as a motivation. Again, the movie feels like it should be called Ben Mears.
Yeah.
Rather than Salem's Lot. Like even people who do get a little bit of time, like Father Callahan and Constable Gillespie. Like their little motivations are just, it's almost like reflexively they have to say Father Callahan drinks, but it doesn't give any play to what happens in the movie, which is weird because the other both good and shitty versions of this actually do that. Like everyone else has been able to do that and they couldn't.
They just, after all the stuff that he talks about, if evil, if good men don't do anything about evil, evil will prevail. And then they just kill him off.
Yeah.
Whereas again, in the book, and I'm pretty sure in the 79 version, he is partially given this vampire curse, which is basically a desecration. He is not allowed to enter another single church again. No. And you know what? He fucking gives up and leaves town.
Yeah, and he crosses through a fucking thinny. We don't meet him until several decades later.
He then shows up in a Dark Tower book 30 years later. And it's like, but that's so much more, it's so much more evil on Barlow's part, is to desecrate a priest.
Because it's personal, and we're not allowed to be personal with any of these characters, and that makes it surface level. It's like they think what Salem's Lot really needs to be is a vampire action movie. And you're like, no. I mean, it should be creepy vampire shit. But the point of this is that the town, a small town, gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And this movie does not have time to do anything like that. I want ever so briefly to let our audience know something that Stephen King has said about Salem's Lot and his motivations for writing it. I think this is very instructive in light of this motion picture. He is quoted as saying, "I wrote Salem's Lot during a period in which the Irvin Committee was sitting. That was also the period when we first learned about the Ellsberg break-in. That's Watergate, for those not in the know or not terribly old like I am. The White House tapes, the connection between Gordon Liddy and the CIA, the news of the enemy list, and other fearful intelligence. During that summer and spring and fall of 73, it seemed like the federal government had been involved in so much subterfuge and so many covert operations, like the bodies of faceless migrant workers that Juan Corona was convicted of slaughtering in California. The horror would never end. And every novel is in some extent an inadvertent psychological portrait of the novelist. And I think that unspeakable obscenity in Salem's Lot has to do with my own disillusionment and consequential fear for the future. In a way, it is more closely related to Invasion of the Body Snatchers than it is to Dracula. The fear behind Salem's Lot seems to be that the government has invaded everybody. Now, I will say that in retrospect, King's fear was that every crooked impulse within the 1970s government had invaded everybody, that lawlessness in the upper echelons of society had bred nothing but lawlessness all the way down to the smallest backwater Maine town. And that's a very powerful metaphor, something that this film does nothing with.
No, it even ends on kind of a bizarrely upbeat note that really pissed me off, which is, did we get them all? Yeah, I think so. Drive away. And it's like, how could you fucking know that? Like, again, the book ends ambiguously where, we think we might have mitigated the situation right now, but, they're going to find us and we got to keep moving.
Yeah. We are on the run for the rest of our lives because we have a target we painted on ourselves called vampire killers. And because we have no idea how far this thing has spread. But this was greenlit in the era at the height of the Trump presidency, when lawlessness reached a dizzying apex. To abandon that thread of this piece is stunningly stupid. It's not surprising, but it is very stupid to just rip out the guts. It almost seems to me that no one involved in the film knows what is the engine behind Salem's Lot. They're just like, I want to see floating vampire kids. And if that's what you want to see, you're going to see some, all right.
but yeah, you're right that it feels like they are trying to be to mitigate any sort of possible controversy or or complaints that this movie is trying to say something or oh, well, this movie is a failed metaphor. This movie isn't anything.
No,
It is
empty.
Absolutely empty. Like you don't get attached to these characters. You feel nothing when Ben has to finds out that discovers that Susan has been turned into a vampire, because you get them, they have this one conversation at the drive-in, and then like 2 scenes later she's hiding in his room with like the sheet pulled up around her shoulders that suggests, whoops, we got caught in the middle of having sex.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's like, oh, okay, I guess they're a couple now.
Yeah. I just like it.
Because
there's no backstory between Ben and Burke.
Yeah,
in any way, shape, or form.
He's just an old student. That's
right.
it. He's an old student.
And it's just like, the sheriff or I guess he's a constable. His like rant about have you seen any good men around here? Just seems very hollow. Like they're
what does that
ticking
mean?
off a box.
Like it seems like you're trying to hit something, but at the same time you're not, like, because nothing comes to it.
We're just not provided any backstory behind anybody. And these are good actors. It's not a failure of their ability to bring something to the camera. It's that their characters are simply empty. Their relationships with one another are written on the page. So therefore, the movie says, I find you attractive. I know you. I will listen to you. I'm concerned about you. But we don't really get any moments that would genuinely make us believe they know, care, or worry about anyone else. It doesn't matter how good Alfre Woodard is. I would listen to her read the fucking phone book. It doesn't matter. But here, she is stranded. Bill Camp is stranded. Lewis Pullman is stranded.
You have these these people playing characters that are confronted with something that shouldn't be possible, and yet nobody has any trouble believing that, oh, this must be vampires. Well, better start hunting down vampires then, because that's clearly what this is.
Well, yes, and I think I'm of two minds. When we were watching this concurrently with one another, that is when you discover that when a vampire is near a cross, the cross glows, as opposed to, from my memory of the 79 version, which I have not watched again yet. I wanted to kind of come into this not having the burden of meeting any sort of expectation of what the 79 version does or whatever. But I seem to remember that holy water glows like Sting, the sword from Lord of the Rings.
I will say that I think the glowing crossing does actually come from the book.
I think all the vampire repelling scenes are cool to watch.
Well,
that is not an issue for me.
The glowing crossing in certain scenes does look like they're just holding a flashlight.
Yes.
Like it's a little too bright. But also
they're very bright.
Much of this movie is a little too bright.
Yes. There are technical aspects of this that really don't make a whole lot of sense. Like
for a vampire movie, there are not as much nighttime scenes as you would think there would be.
And the nighttime seems to be entirely lit by a blue-green source that is not the moon or lights in town. Just everything looks like it has an Alan Wake filter on it. And then all the daytime scenes look like they went on location inside a Thomas Kincaid painting. It is a very weird choice in terms of presentation.
Yeah, because if the idea of the story is, this rundown, sad looking little, working class town, during the, the mid 70s depression, or let's say recession, this is, is a perfect place for a vampire to decimate. That's not what you get here. You get this nice picturesque little small town, and it's like everything's normal, everything's kind of old timey, but also like a nice little rural town. It's like, you're not giving me like town dying on the vine here.
No, because it's not concerned with the town in any way.
No, it's just a town.
We kind of pride ourselves here on the show as being the horror podcast that focuses on characters, regardless of how true that is on any given episode. That is like our stated goal. And the book really has the time and real estate to focus on characters, which almost all novels do. So you get the gossips and the overheated rage freaks and the pretty schoolgirls and the bullies big and small. All the king faves are all given space to demonstrate who they are before the crisis, and more importantly, who they are in the midst of crisis. And this movie cannot give a flying fucking a rolling donut about characters.
No.
It's just, let's make Salem's Lot with real blood and flying vampires. And that seems to be the only motivating factor. And everything else is it just kind of leaves me cold and unsatisfied, which I think is a real fucking bummer.
Yeah, unsatisfying is a good word for it. Is it the worst movie I've ever seen? No. Is it deeply disappointing? Yes. And again, the biggest problems with it come down to its editing, where I don't understand the choices that were made.
I have a feeling that because of this extended, we filmed it so long ago and then it has taken so many years to actually come out, that part of the issue here was like being made during COVID. So you don't get a lot of crowd work. It's very isolated. It's that we can't have too many people in the room factor. So that's an excuse. It's not an explanation, but it is an excuse. And then part of it is like, all right, it's time to talk about Gary Dauberman. Gary Dauberman is a writer, director of this piece. He is a big part of the Atomic Monster and Conjuring verse HQ. He was recently signed to a solo deal to work at Sony to make horror movies for them. So great hire, you guys. Way to do it. But I kind of understand if you don't care about movies, you just look at the guy's box office and think, well, he must know what he's doing. Because when it comes to the Conjuring verse and New Line and what leads up to and follows it, chapter 1, he's a big part of that conversation. And I just find him empty as a filmmaker. That's not to say that he can't be a part of good films, but like my big problem with Annabelle Comes Home was that it felt plastic and cheap, something he definitely brings to the table here in Salem's Lot.
Yeah, it feels everything. It does feel very cheap. It's again, everything is too bright. It sort of feels like we got to amp this up to make this look like it cost more money than it did.
Yeah.
You've got everything. It happens in the movie leads up to clearly this confrontation at the drive-in was that was Dauberman's big set piece. Everything is going to lead up to this big ending scene in the drive-in, which doesn't make sense in a number of ways. Like, again, to keep harping on, this is what happens in the book. In the book, they are doing the logical thing, which in the daytime, now these people are all vampires. What are they doing? They're hiding in their houses. So it makes things creepier because the town is abandoned, but not really.
Right.
Because everybody's home. They're just hiding until nighttime.
Right. And you don't know which houses are people cowering.
Right.
And which houses are full of sleeping vampires.
And they have to go systematically from house to house, driving the vampires out. Right. And, maybe these ones will be easy to kill. Maybe these ones won't be. Maybe these ones will kill us instead. And
right.
Instead, you've got them all gathered in one place
in direct fucking sunlight,
in
Gina.
direct sunlight in these cars that have inside locks and trunks during a time when inside locks and trunks did not exist yet.
Right.
Because
you have one familiar who has the keys to everyone's trunks.
Who is like this middle-aged woman armed with a single shotgun. That is Barlow's new familiar after Straker eats it.
And Dr. Cody,
an overweight middle-aged woman just like screaming and shooting at people.
which I guess is a zag, right? But for why? And then, Alfre Woodard's character, who has died a multitude of ways over the years, whether she's been the character at least has been like rammed into, deer stag.
I think the book he falls through a floor and like land, or is he eaten by rats? It is one of those.
Originally intended to be eaten by rats, and that then becomes something that everyone kind of wants to do in their interpretation and can't find a way to do it. In the finished version of the book, the doctor falls on knives, like a punji stick.
Yeah,
thing.
Right. Yeah, that's right. Which and here she's just shot.
She's just shot. It is so random and is just meant to be a fucking jump scare. And it feels, again, we're coming back to the word empty and useless and lightweight, when so much of this, the reason why you do it is because you have all the source material to do something cool with. And now you're making an R-rated movie that you can do anything with. And they don't even have the guts to make people fall on punji sticks or get eaten by rats or have vampire babies or have a bus full of school children eat their shitty school bus driver. None of this shit happens. And you're why did you fucking remake Salem's Lot?
You don't even get the iconic scene of little Ralphie Glick floating in his jammies outside his brother's window. You get some kind of drawn out, extremely boring scene in the backyard where involving a harmonica and like a spooky seesaw.
I'm sure in their minds, they're like, we have to find a way to zag on not just repeating the 79 version, but here's your challenge to do it in a new and interesting way. And they're like, I don't know, harmonica? Oh my God. It's just a dearth of imagination. I just feel like if you quizzed like a dozen people about what they like about Salem's Lot, I'm sure you would get all sorts of answers, but I doubt any one of them would say, just the pure plot, I think, is really what I come back to Salem's Lot for. Because you've seen that plot so many times since of people who've picked that up, not to mention the fact that both of us would agree that possibly the best version of Salem's Lot that exists is Midnight Mass.
Yes.
A film, a series that is obviously taking inspiration from Salem's Lot and remixing that idea into something fresh and new.
Right. But still has the absolute same vibe. Yes. Where, you have this scene, in the first episode where Riley is home from prison and walking from the dock with his mother to the family home and just seeing, what an absolute miserable, depressed shithole the whole town has turned into.
Yeah.
Which is, okay, where is that establishment in this? No, it looks like a fucking Norman Rockwell town.
It looks great. It seems like there's plenty of operating business.
It looks like someplace that New Yorkers go to vacation on the weekends.
Yes. And in fact, the Straker idea of him opening an antique shop in the book, and I think most of the adaptations, the point is to make that shop inside the Marsden home, which is why he won't invite anybody there, because the shop's not open yet. And in this interpretation, he's opened it up in town with a lot of cool, expensive looking shit inside of it. And you're like, well, everyone would know who he fucking is at this point because he is open for business.
Right. It's like they're confusing it with what's his face from Needful Things.
Oh, yes. Right.
Which I think is what the actor is trying to go for is Max von Sydow in Needful Things, like this very hammy, out of turn character.
Yeah.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. You chose to hit play on this podcast today. Smart choice. Progressive loves to help people make smart choices. That's why they offer a tool called Auto Quote Explorer that allows you to compare your Progressive car insurance quote with rates from other companies. So you save time on the research and can enjoy savings when you choose the best rate for you. Give it a try after this episode at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Not available in all states or situations. Prices vary based on how you buy.
The movie, like everyone's kind of acting in a slightly different movie, and him most of all. I'm not going to say it's bad because I don't think any part of this really, well, with the exception of the editing and how they chose to rip the guts out of this, it doesn't rise to the level of bad. It's just, it feels incompetent and empty. And, I don't know why they point to the Marsden house and don't explore any part of that. And if that is something that is important to you, like it is to me, I would tell you that the best exploration of the Marsden House elements from Salem's Lot are actually in season 2 of Castle Rock, which manages to blend together a Misery prequel, the Merrill clan, a dash of a vampireless Salem's Lot, plus Somalian refugees, something that is more relevant now than when the season actually came out, and it fucking rules, but no one watched it but me. So bullshit like Salem's Lot 24 is what we're getting.
Well, I mean, the thing is that bugs me is Straker does mention the name Hubie Marston.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, clearly that was supposed to mean something at some point.
Right.
But since you cut that scene out, now it's just a random reference to, it's
an Easter egg.
Right. If somebody didn't read the book, they would be like, well, who the fuck's Hubie Marston?
I know, and that's the thing. Like, I feel like so many of the execs who are like cutting the heart out of this don't care about Salem's Lot. And I'm not necessarily saying they need to, but do they think this is a better product than something that actually explores shit they left in the movie as some sort of, Stephen King heads will like this. No, they won't. They'll ask, why the fuck aren't you actually exploring this major component of the work?
If you're not going to elaborate on it, cut it out. Cut out his encounter with Floyd Tibbetts because it doesn't come to anything. Cut out the scene in the drive-in where Susan is pointing out random characters because you know what? They don't matter.
It's the only time Father Callahan is really referenced as a drunk. And then it does not come into play in terms of the actual unfolding of the plot. It's just sort of like shorthand for when he should be desecrated. And then Barlow's like, now you can't go into a church. And it doesn't make any fucking sense.
You got Mark's parents don't show up until literally 45 seconds before they're killed off.
We kept texting one another like, when is this kid? Does this kid live a bachelor life? Where are his parents?
He is like almost attacked by a vampire in his house and fights back. And we still don't get a scene of like the parents coming in to check on him. He might as well live alone.
Yes. It is really, really an odd choice. It's almost as if they don't like people are paid by the scene.
I don't think his mother even gets any dialogue.
She sits up and notices something and then gets eaten the hell out of by Barlow. And let's confront this. Like, I know that they're referencing the 79 version and in high def, the 79 version, you can see a lot of the seams, right?
Yes, of course.
It feels as hokey as when I looked at, 30s and 40s and 50s monster movie monsters. It seems very hokey, but their interpretation of it is just liberally stealing from shit like 30 Days of Night, which also is a better version of Salem's Lot than this, and a better speed run version of Salem's Lot than this. And the more looks I got at Barlow, the more he began to resemble an old favorite here at the Kill by Kill podcast, and that is the space vampire from Buck Rogers in the 25th century, minus the balls on his head.
It somehow looks worse than the 79 version. And
I don't know how it's fucking possible, but they were able to do it. And even if they replicated it, but took away the seams, it would have looked better than what they decided to do here was broccoli vampire with big red veins. And guys, that is available on the internet. It's Buck Rogers in the 25th century, which came out after Salem's Lot. Just make a big blue Nosferatu guy with curvy front teeth. Just rip it off wholesale, and I would have been fine with that if you'd done it well. But this is just ungood. He's not scary.
They have they have the glowing eye effect still, which I appreciate. But again, it's because it's all fucking CGI instead of just reflective contacts, which is what they wore in the 79 version.
It's the same
and somehow
thing
the
that makes the crosses glow. It's not different than that. It's the same.
It's the same thing. But for some reason, it looks better in the 79 version.
And then when people get hypnotized, it's not just a look on their face like it is in the 79 version. I don't want to just constantly compare it or anything, but everyone starts to look like a mentat from Dune.
I do.
And you're like, guys, you saw this already. You put it in 2 movies.
I do kind of like that, but it's something that, they do maybe twice.
Right.
And then never again.
And it doesn't affect people's behavior or how no one says, don't look them in the eye.
Right.
That should be a thing that you discover when you go, well, they can kind of hypnotize you. So don't look them in the eye. All right, we're getting to the point here where we have got to name something we like from this fucking thing. Otherwise, we're like those dipshits who just yell at Star Wars about it. Star Wars isn't my Star Wars anymore because they put ladies in it. Now, I'd like to say we put more thought into it than that. But I don't like being the hate industrial complex.
No. I do actually like the Gordon Lightfoot song Sundown.
Yeah.
And I think it would actually, I have said long before this movie came out that I was surprised that it has not shown up on the soundtrack of a vampire movie yet. And they use it twice. Yeah. They use it at the beginning and then they use it during the end credits. So I like that they use the song because they also use it in the trailer. And sometimes that doesn't always carry over. So, I liked it. At the same time, I'm sorry that it was wasted on this movie. Similarly to, I was sorry that the Deftones change Another song that would work well in a vampire movie was Queen of the
Damned. I like the scene in the autopsy room where you know, this they're like, we're not gonna dig up to see whether or not that kid is in his coffin. We got one dead body. If the sun goes down and it rises up as a vampire, we'll know for sure. And then it happens, and there's this weird panic of not really being prepared for a vampire. They want to know for sure, but then they're really stuck for, how do we make this happen? And they're jerry-rigging crosses, and then they're trying to figure out a way to bless it. And that felt like one sequence where everyone was on the same page and they knew how to deliver it. And I just wish the rest of the movie had that energy and competence. But I feel like, for all my ripping on Gary Dauberman, I think his impulse to make Salem's Lot into a popcorn movie isn't necessarily a bad idea, but the movie is just stripped of fun in favor of racing through the plot and kind of recreate versions that have already happened in 79 and 2004. It's just not a story I think you can strip down to a more intimate experience.
No, it needs time to cook.
Yes. The story is not called The Author Who Left an Orphan and Came Back a Vampire Killer. It's called Salem's Lot.
It's not called Vampires with an exclamation point at the end.
Right. And this movie kind of operates along those lines. And I wanted to like it. I wanted to go, boy, they just burned money not putting this in the theater. I wanted to love every part of it. And I don't think it's an acting thing. I really feel like there's probably a better version of this, a more acceptable version of this, where all the corners are more well explored. And they said, no, the only tolerable way to make this movie work is for it to be an hour and 45 minutes with, 8 minutes of credits.
Right.
And I disagree.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed. It's probably like it's mediocre. It is very mediocre.
And yeah, so I don't remember the 04 version at all. I remember a lot from the 79 version, but I didn't watch it in anticipation of this because I kind of wanted to give it its own fair shake. And we're going to do an entire episode on it.
That was the one with Rob Lowe, right?
Yes. The one where Ben Mears is a hot guy in a leather coat.
I don't remember a lot about that. All I know is that I think Barlow was just like, he looked human. Because I think that's
in the book he's kind of human.
I think in the book he is basically more or less human. He's not like a Nosferatu. That's from the 79, and they carry
that's an invention of Toby Hooper.
Right. He's just like this sort of old world European guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like the play of, well, you have Mark Petrie who knows the universal movie monster version of a Dracula, and then he has to confront a more vicious version of a Nosferatu. And that's something that is beyond his comfort. He thinks, because I have knowledge of this, I'm going to be safe. And it turns out he makes a lot of stupid decisions that get a bunch of people killed.
Right.
And that's also not a component that is explored in this movie at all. And it's not that young actor's fault. I think he's doing a great job.
It's not the actor's fault, but like this kid is like 12, like going on 35. Like he's very calm. He sees his parents brutally killed right in front of him, and he just barely bats an eye because he's not given any time to process that information before they're immediately rushing to the next scene.
It's like someone got a note, I'm sick of trauma being experienced in horror movies. Please don't do that in here.
Yeah. It's like, as I said, like they wanted to make a movie where no one could complain that it was a metaphor for anything, or that it was about trauma, or that it was trying to say anything about current events. You know, just a a horror movie for people who this is they just it's doing exactly what it says in the tin. It's a vampire movie.
Right. It's the same mistake that a bunch of these post-it films have made in terms of how they approach Stephen King material, where the name and plot of Stephen King is more than enough. And it's like, yeah, we have those movies already. They were made. You're remaking Firestarter. I think you could dig into some of these fucking details. And they just, at a certain point, go, nah, rather not. And this is what we get. And for some reason, a guy who makes really deep, explorations of characters in all sorts of genres is just now getting a new generation of short shrift interpretations.
Yeah.
It sucks. So that's what we didn't like. And what we did like about 2024 Salem's Lot. It's been a while since we've had one of these movies that really uncorks our angry side.
Well, because it's failed potential. This should not be a hard story to adapt. It should because it is as as much as it does focus on just the vibe of the town, it's also one of his most straightforward stories. Like there's no other than Father Callahan showing up in one of the Dark Tower stories later, which I doubt he even really had in mind at the time. Yeah. He likes to occasionally bring back old characters. There's no hints of other books that he was going to write. It's just a very, very straightforward, easy to understand book that just happens to be extremely unsettling. It still remains to me the scariest horror novel I've ever read. It bothers me. It's very unsettling.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations.
It's the town going to hell book that has the most direct upsetting levels of it. You can really feel the elements of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and how that bleeds through, how all the things that are supposed to make a town feel safe crumble instantly.
It's desolate. It feels like desolation. Like Matt Burke, who in the movie he's just killed all. He turns into a vampire. But in the book, he just dies of a heart attack, and it's just and it's just sort of like, well, one less of the gang. I mean, it's just like the walls are closing in. They are losing members of their team one by one. And here it's just like, well, there's a bunch of bowling pins we can set up.
It's also the first quartet book, right?
Yeah.
These people who don't necessarily know one another or tangentially connected to one another, who find that together they're better equipped to handle the world falling apart than they would be separately. And it's one of those things I really like about Stephen King. And I have to believe that Gary Dauberman does too. And as much as I have come down on the dude, I feel like this was taken away, that this was just stripped.
I am willing. I will tell you something. As much as I did not enjoy this movie, I am willing to watch the original cut to see if intact, if it was better.
Is the question is that stuff as semi-incompetently crafted the way some of this other stuff is? Because there's also flashes of stuff that we genuinely like. The repelling of vampires, I think, is really cool here. And is a reason to remake Salem's Lot. And the rest of it, I just have a really hard time latching on to because it's so slick. You just slide right off of it. And that's not what I'm looking for in a Salem's Lot interpretation.
No, I've seen too many good and powerful horror movies over the past decade to have any real love at this point for just empty soulless experiments in well, let's just have a bunch of characters and just kill them all off.
Well, good news for you, Gina, is coming up. We're going to talk about a very soulful interpretation of Salem's Lot in that it features one and only David Soul. A man who believably comes across as a 70s novelist.
I mean, clearly he's got the hair.
He definitely has the hair for it. So this will be interesting in light of that, because obviously there's a lot of strictures put onto that this film is very free of. It's a 79 CBS 2-night event. So there's only so much you can do. And the director is someone I feel doesn't get nearly the amount of love that he should in Tobe Hooper. And so I'm interested in revisiting it and viewing it as its own thing, as disconnected, and trying to give it the same grace I gave this in rewatching it again and seeing where it lies. And I have a feeling it treats its characters with more care, unbelievably, for a TV movie.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to that in the very near future. So please rate and review us on iTunes or Spotify, comment on there. We'd love to hear from your comments on YouTube or wherever you get it. Give us the thumbs up. We love hearing from you and your feedback. It's very important to us to be heard from you, because that's how other people in these algorithms end up finding us. So we love to hear from you. If you want more, go to Patreon, where we've got plenty of bonus episodes for you to dig into, and where you can hear us talk over movies, hear us answer your questions and chat by chat. That's all available to you. Hey, Gina, where can people see and hear more from you on these here internets?
Are we so disappointed we're not going to do Choose Your Own Death Venture?
I don't fucking care. Gina, this does not deserve that. I'll be honest with you. There's no part of this that is fun.
No, I mean, I guess, bitten by a vampire and then killed by the sun. Fine.
Sure. I guess I burned to death at the fucking drive-in. Again, something it took an hour to bring up, but I think the theme for our vampire, exploration here so far is vampires are shitty planners.
They are shitty planners. It's like, let's all gather in the same spot so they can find us all together. Make it easier for them to destroy us.
They'll never look for us in the trunks of cars at the drive-in. You're right about that, because It's a shitty plan, vampire.
Yeah, like who would think of something so dumb?
This bereft housewife, this widower who's up in her daughter's business, I guess, came up with this brilliant fucking plan. We can't afford one more room in the Marsden house because then we'd have to explain what the fuck it is.
I just love because that aspect is completely pulled out of whole cloth for this movie, is the selecting of a new familiar. And it's like, I mean, was there a lost scene and why he chose this very anxious woman to be his new, like, why her?
I guess because she doesn't want her daughter to leave town. And if she's turned into a vampire and you're in charge of her, she can't. She will outlive you. I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway,
Gina.
Anyway, you can read my writing on movies, television, pop culture, which will probably almost certainly include a review of this about the same time that this comes out at GinaWatchesThings.substack.com. And I am on most social medias under Gina Does Things. Do it today, people. Check it out. Next week, we'll be back with something more fun. I don't know the order I'm going to put out these fucking episodes, but this is a goddamn bummer. Yeah, it's a chore. It's a chore. Read the book. Read the book. The book's great. The book is unimpeachable. Absolute the book classic. There are no compromises in that book. No, it is like there are vampire babies. Yeah. And it's not nearly vampire kids who kill their bus driver because he's an animal. And it's not nearly, the vampire baby is not nearly as corny as you would think it'd be. It is unsettling. It's everything you like from a writer who occasionally got so drunk or high on cocaine or pain pills that he couldn't remember what he wrote. And this is the shit that comes out. Yeah. Yeah, that just about does it. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue. For myself and for Gina. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger for thousands of appetizing ingredients that inspire countless mouthwatering meals. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices. Plus, extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week and up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with points. So you can get big flavors and big savings. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.